In the name of God, hello and welcome. I'm Ali Razamadadi with the latest coming to you live from Tehran. Head of Iran's Health Ministry's Public Relations Office, Kianush Jahanpour, said on Monday that 107,113 people out of a total of 137,724 infected with the current coronavirus or COVID-19 pandemic have recovered, while 7,451 people have lost their lives. Jahanpour underlined that 2,023 new cases have been declared and 34 others have lost their lives since Sunday. Iran has taken numerous steps to stop the spread of the disease, ranging from closing schools and universities to cancelling cultural and religious gatherings. It is also constantly disinfecting and sanitizing public places. Now, the number of known coronavirus cases across the world has risen to 5,410,439, while 347,105 people have lost their lives to COVID-19. According to data compiled by Johns Hopkins University, about 5 months after the deadly virus emerged in China and quickly moved to plague other countries, many countries have reported a fall in the number of infections, relaxing the lockdown restrictions they impose on their cities and citizens to contain the fast-spreading virus. The easing of the social distancing measures have led to a commuter surge in big cities. Meanwhile, changing recommendations from scientists and health authorities on subjects such as whether it is necessary to wear face masks has confused the public, prompting many to refuse wearing masks in public. The situation has sparked concerns among health experts that such a situation could hinder global efforts to slow the spread. Meanwhile, Japan is set to lift a state of emergency for the capital Tokyo and other remaining areas. Japan's economy minister told reporters on Monday that the government had received approval from key advisors to remove the state of emergency for all remaining regions. In the American continent, Washington banned all non-citizen arrivals from Brazil, which is the second COVID-19 hotspot after the United States. Many governments across Europe continue to ease lockdown restrictions as the continent's summer vacation season approaches, while with a rise expected in outdoor activities. Health experts, however, warn that this could prompt a second wave of the pandemic in the continent. Now, the Venezuelan media announced that a second Iranian tanker loaded with gasoline has sailed into the South American country's territorial waters. The first of 5 Iranian tankers carrying 1.53 million barrels of gasoline reached Venezuelan waters late on Saturday to ease the Latin American nation's fuel crunch.
Solidarity from Iran to Venezuela has successfully materialized as fuel-loaded ships sent by the Islamic Republic are reaching the Latin American country one by one. Venezuelan officials say this is a symbol of victory over U.S. imperialism. Authorities say that the National Armed Forces will continue to provide military protection to the upcoming Iranian ships. Caracas also hailed the valuable contribution from Tehran to tackle the gasoline shortage that Venezuelans have been grappling with during recent weeks.
Quiero agradecer.
I want to thank from the bottom of my heart to the people of Iran, to President Hassan Rouhani, my friend and colleague, to Iran's leader Ayatollah Khamenei, the loyal follower of the historical legacy of Ayatollah Khomeini, and the Iranian nation as a whole for their solidarity with Venezuela, for their support, courage, and decision.
The 5-tanker flotilla is carrying over 1.5 million barrels of fuel in total.
The Iranian ships help mitigate the lack of fuel, but also reinforce the sovereignty of both nations.
However, the opposition claims Caracas is stirring further conflict with Washington.
The links between Venezuela and Iran will worsen U.S. sanctions against both. Fuel shortage is not over yet.
But experts believe that the arrival of the Iranian ships is a remarkable achievement.
Venezuela and Iran are successfully breaking the U.S. blockade, and I believe more ships will arrive safe and sound.
Venezuela's gasoline production has hit bottom as a result of U.S. confiscation of oil industry assets efforts abroad. Besides that, almost 3 months of lockdown to prevent the spread of the new coronavirus have weakened even more the country's fuel industry. The arrival of Iranian oil tankers is regarded by many Venezuelans as a symbol of victory over U.S. intentions of oppressing sovereign nations as Venezuela and Iran. Caracas says its ties with Tehran will go on despite Washington's constant threats. Jesus Silva, Press TV, Caracas.
Iranian Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif has extended his congratulations to the people of Africa on the occasion of Africa Day, saying the Islamic Republic will forever remain a reliable partner for all African nations. Zarif added that the Africa Day 2020 is a remembrance of the bravest struggles of Africans against the oppression. The top Iranian diplomat also expressed the country's readiness to share its experience and expertise to help save lives amid the deadly coronavirus pandemic. Iran, one of the Middle Eastern countries hardest hit by the pandemic, has managed to contain the rate of COVID-19 infections, mainly relying on homegrown efforts for producing treatment and diagnostics, as the country continues to suffer from a series of U.S. sanctions that have hampered its access to imports of medicine and vital medical equipment. Washington has even attempted to block a request by Iran to the International Monetary Fund for an emergency loan that the country needs to contain the pandemic. Now, the spokesperson for Iran's foreign ministry says the United States is by no means qualified to judge other countries in political, legal, and moral terms and must first clarify its own vicious and ominous track records. Abbas Mousavi made the remarks on Monday while referring to a recent report in which the United States State Department accused some Iranian officials, including the Interior Minister, of human rights abuses. The U.S. Treasury on Wednesday imposed illegal sanctions on 8 Iranian officials, including Interior Minister Abdulreza Rahmani Fazli, as part of an anti-Iran campaign pursued by the administration of President Donald Trump. Mousavi further described the U.S. regime as a state sponsor of terrorism and said, according to available information, the United States has harbored at least 8 well-known terrorist groups since the 1960s who have bloody track records in West Asia, Europe, and Latin America. Among them, he said, is the terrorist MKO, which is responsible for assassinating 17,000 Iranian citizens and officials during the past 4 decades. The Iranian spokesman further pointed to the U.S. killing of civilians in military drone attacks in at least 6 countries of Afghanistan, Iraq, Pakistan, Somalia, Libya, and Yemen in the name of war against terrorism, and said many civilian targets and individuals have been attacked deliberately. Now, my colleague Salim Mohajiri has a report on one of the most famous prayer scholars in Iran.
The late Rahim Muazzinzadeh was born in 1925 in a religious family in Ardabil. In 1950, he started reciting the call to prayer on Tehran radio.
The Muazzinzadeh family inherited this distinctive feature of having a good voice from their predecessors, especially the late Rahim Muazzinzadeh, who recited the wonderful call to prayer while fasting and is still remembered today. His father, brothers, and nephew were also Muazzins, which is why they were called Muazzinzadeh.
If 10 professional composers and eulogists try, they will not be able to create a work like this, called to prayer, because at that time Rahim was connected to Almighty God and had said it with sincerity.
One of the best call to prayers, that is azan, I've ever heard is the call to prayer of Rahim Muazzinzadeh Ardabili, which really polishes the soul of a person when he or she hears it.
This very calming and mystical voice takes all the Muslims of the world to the mosque. All the Muslims of the world know this voice.
What is your idea about Rahim Muazzinzadeh Ardebili?
Okay, it's also his azan is very famous. Even today it's been placed whenever it is time for prayer in many radios and televisions, and his voice known across the world. It makes him alive all the time.
The azan of the late Muazzinzadeh Ardebili was registered in the list of national monuments in September 2008 as a spiritual and cultural work by the Cultural Heritage Organization of Iran.
Rahim Muazzinzadeh passed away in 2005, but his voice and azan will be eternal. Salim Mohajeri reporting for IRGC from Ardabil in Northwest Iran.
And finally, gunfights in Kashmir continue to live behind destroyed homes and devastated families.
The holy month of Ramadan draws to an end, and people across the world are gearing up to celebrate Eid al-Fitr quietly with their family members at home amid the global pandemic. But Ghulam Muhammad and his neighbors have no idea how their families will celebrate the Eid. On Tuesday, at least 15 houses, including the one of Ghulam Muhammad, were destroyed in a gunfight between Indian forces and pro-independence fighters in Srinagar, Kashmir's capital city. 2 armed fighters, including an MBA graduate turned militant commander, were killed in the gun battle. A 12-year-old boy who was injured in a house collapse also succumbed to injuries later.
Forces asked us to evacuate our home when the gunfight raged. When we returned, we saw our houses completely destroyed. Even in times of the COVID, when authorities ask people to stay home, we have been rendered homeless. Where are we going to go now?
Over the past few years, residential houses have become collateral damage in gun battles. Government forces have targeted a number of civilian homes, sometimes blown them with improvised explosive devices, or IEDs, in order to kill hold-up armed fighters, thereby rendering countless families shelterless. In many cases, family members have accused the forces of loot and plunder.
They asked us to leave and didn't allow us to take valuables along. They looted our belongings, cash, jewelry, and other valuables. That's all we had.
Police officials say the houses harboring militants are targeted, and rest of the houses destroyed in the gun battle are collateral damage. The displaced families have no hope of proper compensation from the government. In absence of government help, locals come forward to help the distressed families. They collect donations to rebuild the houses. This year's Ramadan in Kashmir has been one of the bloodiest in recent past. A number of Indian forces, pro-independence fighters and civilians have been killed since April 25, the day the holy month began. Gunfights in Kashmir continue to leave behind destructive homes and devastated families. The visible trail of destruction in the heart of the region's capital city, Srinagar, means this year's Eid could hardly get the displaced families into festive mood. Saidli Safi reporting for Press TV, Indian-administered Kashmir.
Well, that's it from me now. Thank you very much indeed for staying with us. Good night.